Hello everyone. So in this video, I'll be explaining normalization and excuse me, SQL. So I've created these three example tables, and we're just gonna go one by one, and we'll see. We're gonna divide that up, and there are three main forms in this class. What we're gonna be learning, it's one NF, first normal form, second normal form, and the third normal form. There is also there's more normal forms after that, but for this class we're going to keep it until three normal forms. So normalization is uh, reducing redundancy. So there's an assignment going on right now that's due on Sunday midnight. That you have to explain what redundancy and what's wrong with the tables. So when you look at the table, what's wrong do you see? So normalization is not eliminating redundancy, it's reducing redundancy. And you can reduce redundancy by converting into 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, and you can keep going. And there's a lot of things you can actually eliminate from it. So that right now, let's say starting table, starting database, we only have one table, order records, right? And all of that data is inside it. There's only one table in this database, and that is called order records. And when you have order records, then if you look at the data, we can actually divide that up into several different databases. So let's say we have customer name, customer email, that could be one table, right? So that's the customer information. And then we have product ID and product name. So that would be the product table. And the next we can say order. We have order ID and what else would go in there? Product. Sorry, the orders would have order ID and all the information connecting them, or both of those two tables together would go in there. So that's a lot of redundancy, and every time we create a new order right now, let's say we don't have any of this right now, we only have this table. We're going to create a lot of data in there, and we can reduce that redundancy. Remember, right now only have an example of 3 rows, right? You're going to have millions of rows. Think about Amazon. Amazon stores everything in the database, right? And every single order they get, what if they start storing all the customer information, product information, and or all the order information all in one table? That's going to take a long time. There's going to be, like, just this example alone, John Doe actually ordered 2 times, and they have 2 names, the same email address twice, and even though they're different product, but this is redundancy, and we can reduce that by dividing this big table into several different tables. So this is going from one, and so this is just a table, and we can convert that into one normalization, normal form. All right. So we can actually look at that in the designer as well. Excuse me, my voice is actually not really that good today. Okay. So now, if you look at this, we divided all that data, what we had before, we divided that up into 3 different tables. The first one, we converted the customers table, customer ID, customer name, customer email. That makes sense. We can obviously have more information about the customer, but this is just an example. And we have the orders table. The only thing order table is doing is connecting these two together, right? So order table would have the ID from here and product ID from here, and that would be the actual order. So just think about it. When you place an order, you have your information and whatever you're ordering, right? And that would be connected through the product ID right there. And the products table would have everything else. So product ID, product name, category, price of that product, everything else would be here. So each product will be stored here in here one time, and we just use the ID in the orders table. So that's normalization. We're getting rid of redundancy. Same thing here. We just get the information from the table will be stored here one time. If I go to Amazon, create an account, I'm on there once, I'm on their database once, and they use my ID for every order I place on their website, and kind of like this. So now one more thing I do want to mention here is each table is related to other, right? So this is relational database. Relational database means uh, customers is related to orders. In what way? The customer ID is mentioned here, right here, right? And this is known as a foreign key. So you have, this is the primary key in customers, but if you use that in orders table, this would be the foreign key. Same thing with products to orders, we have a primary key, product ID, and then if you're using that primary key somewhere else to connect the table, that would be the foreign key. So product ID is the foreign key here, and a primary key for orders table is order ID. All right. And now the relationship. So the relationship between customers and orders is one to many. So customers can have many orders, but orders can only have, order could only have one customer. That's how you would read it. So you see this thing right here is a little bigger, and there's none here. So this is actually known as a crow's foot. So let me draw that out. They actually don't have the crow's foot here, but it would be something like this. You may see that in the book. It's known as the crow's foot, the 3 foot. So that's many, and that's one. And same thing here. This is going like this. My handwriting is really bad. But, so this is many, and this is one. So you could have product. There could be a lot of products in or each order, right? So order could have a lot of products, but product will only have one order at a time. So that's how you would read this. All right. I hope that made sense. I'll post some other videos on this too, and I think we're going to cover this later in the course too, so it will make more sense. So let's go back to normalization. Let me clear this up. Okay. So now if you can still see there's still some redundancy. Let's look at the data itself. Where is it? Mainly the products. So if you look at the products, you see category, right? So there's a lot, the hardware is repeating a lot of times. So we can still reduce this redundancy, and we can get rid of that redundancy. So before we get into that, there's this database right now. Where did we go? So look at the designer. This is one NF form. So this is one normal form, and which is great. We got rid of a lot of redundancy. To get this to 2NF, all we need to worry about is the two things it needs to have. It needs to be 1NF. It is 1NF. And the second thing is all non-key attributes are fully functional and dependent on the primary key. So all non-key attributes are fully functional and dependent on the primary key. So in this case, it is not dependent on each other. This is coming from here. This ID is coming from here. There's no other IDs here, and everything, all this other information, extra information, is dependent on this one primary key. So this is already 2NF. So we don't need to worry about it. Now we can go back to the example I was giving earlier. From products, this is a lot of redundancy. We can still reduce this redundancy, right? And we can have another table called category, and then have a category ID here. So this could be like a category type, right? So they just mentioned category, but we can move that out to a different table and just mention category ID here. That would be 111, and that would one mention to hardware. So that would be the 3NF. So if you look at 3NF, we have categories table, customers, and the other three stays the same. So if you look at the product table, now we do not have a hardware listed here. Now we have the category ID. And this is actually coming from, let's go back to categories. So let me just let's look at this first. Um, So now we have categories. Category ID is coming from categories table, and the name is the hardware. So if you go look at the browse the table categories, it's only gonna have one line right now. It's gonna have category ID of one and the category name, and that would be just the hardware. And now we have got rid of that redundancy, and now it is considered 3NF. So that's what you guys need to do, something similar for your homework assignment as well. So we're giving you a lot of tables to look at, and then you need to normalize it. How can you normalize it? It just depends on you, how far you want to take it. You want to do 1NF, 2NF, 3NF. You can keep going. I'm sure there's a lot of redundancy still, and you can keep doing that. I just want to show you the categories table before we end this. So categories table, if you browse it, this is just category one and the name of the category. So if you had multiple categories, you just put it here and you take that ID and you would mention it in the products table. Right. Let's say you have a software category, that would be 2, and if you had more data, you just add that here. If you have any questions or concerns, obviously, let me know. For right now, that's all we have.